Today on What's in the Box, we talk to researcher Jimmy Blanton. Stick around and find out what's in the box. If you haven't heard, Anchor's the easiest way to make a podcast, and it's totally free to use. There's tons of creation tools that help you record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Anchor also distributes your podcast to numerous outlets, bringing you a large audience. Everything you need in one place to create a podcast. Download the free app today or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Visit thecryptocrew.com, your number one source for cryptozoology and paranormal research. That's thecryptocrew.com. The Crypto Crew is a research group led by Thomas Marcum that investigates and documents things like Bigfoot, UFOs, ghosts, and just general weird things. They've won several awards. Check out the website today. That's thecryptocrew.com.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of What's in the Box. Today I have a special guest, a person I've known for several years. I've actually researched with him some. Real good guy. At this time, let's welcome Jimmy Blanton to the show. How are you today, Jimmy?
Doing pretty good, brother. How about yourself?
Pretty good, considering we're in the middle of apocalypse. I'm doing all right.
I heard that.
Jimmy, tell us a little bit about your history, about as far as your research efforts. How long have you been researching? I know you also do paranormal research and Bigfoot research. Tell us a little bit about that, and maybe some of the equipment you use or whatever, and let the people know a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I'm from Harlan, Kentucky. I've actively been researching cryptids for about the past 6 years. In the field, the past 3-4 years. As you mentioned, I've been out with you a couple times. Recently had something happen to me that kind of has got me scratching my head in a way. A lot of other researchers have told me if I kept going out in the field one way or the other, I was going to see something. I guess it's been about almost 4 months now on some private property. It's family owned. I was just so happened to be trying out a camera that I was going to get from somebody, and had made my way up on a ridge. And when I got to the top, I noticed over the hillside I kept hearing some kind of noise. And to me, I just figured, maybe it was a deer or a bear. I had been run off of the ridge by a mother with some cubs last spring, which kind of shook me up a little bit because I didn't have a sidearm or anything with me. But I kept my eye on her and walked, back down the hill, and she just come halfway down. She really didn't care much about me after I'd seen her. I seen the cubs pop their heads up in the dip as she come up over it. But I was hearing the noise, so I looked over this little embankment. I wanted to try to see if I could get the deer or the bear that I was hearing on film. I got down and leaned across this little log, and once I looked over, I kind of noticed that this bear was a reddish-brown looking color. It was right at about 4 foot tall, and then when I noticed what it was doing, it kind of looked funny to me, so I reached to get something from my backpack, and when I did, it stood straight up. Now, this thing was way taller than the 4 foot that it was. What I'm thinking is it was squatted down like we humans normally do, its butt, with your butt almost touching the ground. But when it stood up fully erect, I'm going to say it was probably close to about 6.5 to 7 foot tall.
Well, that's kind of how us humans do. We bend at the knees and squat down with our butt almost touching the ground. I mean, as you get older, it's a little bit more hard to do that. But when you're young, it ain't nothing to do that for humans.
Yeah, and that's what kind of threw me off too at first. Because I thought, well, it's just a bear. It's just what my friend Marcella has seen cinnamon-colored bears before, and that's the first thing that popped into my head. This is a bear. But when it stood up, and I noticed that it had long, lanky, I'm talking thin legs. This is, most of the time, reports that I've gotten, and I know you've had plenty of them too over the years. These creatures that we call Bigfoot or Sasquatch are huge.
Right. Normally they're real thick.
They're the big muscle mass, big heavy creatures.
Right, very thick.
Yes. But I noticed that the legs and the back of the arms on this one was really small. Unusual to me, and that's what kind of threw me off at the same time. I really don't know what I can't say 100% sure, Thomas, that this was a Bigfoot. And the reason why I say that is because it had its back to me, and I didn't get to see its face at all. I didn't get to see no facial features or anything. But once I stood up and I realized that I was looking at something that was not a bear, I stood up to get my backpack and my walking stick and start to take a step back. It took off running. When it took off running and I turned around to take off running, then I stopped and turned back around to look, which was, I'm going to say 5 to 7 seconds maybe at the most. It was gone down in between a gully about 200 feet away from me, and I mean, it was booking it. I just caught the back end of it as it was hitting the bottom and going towards the creek. There's a creek that runs right straight up in the valley, and I mean, like 2 foot from that creek is a road that goes right straight up beside it, up into the mountainside. And for this thing to move that fast, a bear's not going to move that quick, not on 2 legs. And I don't think it was a person, a human being, because of the fact that how quick it moved. For you to move 200 foot in 5 seconds, you need to be playing for the NFL.
Definitely. Well, here's some things I take away from that, Jimmy, is around here I've been out in the mountains a lot, and I've seen a lot of black bear, and they're all the ones I've seen have been black. I've not even seen a cinnamon colored bear in this area. Not saying they're not here, just saying that I've not seen any. Also, typically a black bear standing on its back feet is roughly around 5 foot tall, or just slightly more. It's very rare to get one that's 6 foot tall. So that kind of makes it lean away from it being a bear, for me anyways. And then you say it stood up and ran away. Usually if a bear is going to run away, it's not going to run on 2 legs, it's going to be on all 4s.
Well, see, that's one of the reasons why I can't like to myself say it was a Bigfoot. I know it's classic signs. I've took in the reports. I've been doing this for a little while, but it's just like the confirmation for me would be if I could have got to see the face to make sure that it wasn't somebody being stupid. And Lord forbid someone is crazy enough to wear a suit like that and run around in the woods here in Harlan.
It's a bad idea.
Yeah, very, very bad idea. There's a lot of hunters, a lot of folks that carry guns. You're taking a chance on getting yourself hurt.
What did you, at the time you seen this? Did you actually have your camera rolling? Did you get any footage of it, or?
Well, the thing about it is I had it in my backpack.
Oh.
And I didn't even take the time. This happened so quick. Like I said, I didn't even think to get the camera out. It startled me. I mean, it honestly did startle me. It took me a second to gather my head and my thoughts of what was going on, and then after I got halfway back down the hill, I realized I didn't even, I had my camera in my backpack. I didn't even get it out, turn it on, or do anything.
Well, it's
because
funny.
It went from being a bear to what in the world is this within like a second when it stood up, and I was like, this can't be a bear.
Well, something you hit on there. I seen a Bigfoot, a real dark one time, but I wasn't actually out looking for Bigfoot, so it was unexpected to me, and I just kind of froze because it was something I wasn't expecting to see. It wasn't even on my mind, and then I see it, and you just kind of froze. I didn't think nothing about running and getting the camera. I didn't think about even going up to where it was at or anything. It just I don't know. It just shocks you, I guess, for a second.
It did. It totally caught me off guard that day because I wasn't, I wasn't expecting it. And I've been told by people that I've interviewed, I'm going to say at least 95% of researchers that get out and look for these, they're not going to find anything. And you got that 10% that are out hiking or with family members, they run into them. So the ones that are not looking are the people that are running into them, and the ones that are looking for them, 95% of the time you're not going to get no evidence. You're not going to find nothing.
Well, even if like I know myself, I've been in the field and I've had several experiences with Bigfoot. I've been in close proximity of them, but the way it happens so fast and so quick, it's hard to get your camera out unless you've already got your camera out and rolling. It's still going to be very difficult to catch anything.
Oh yeah, like I said, I mean excuse me, for this thing to move, like I said, that's another thing. I don't think this was a person because of the way it moved.
Well, was the shape of it as in look more humanish, human form shape?
No, the thing I remember, it didn't have any classic features. It's like the head set more down on the shoulders, like in reports that I've taken in, and I'm sure you've taken in.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed the top of the head was smaller and kind of almost cone-like, like your typical Bigfoot report.
Right, sagittal crest.
I looked for ears. I couldn't see any ears, but I noticed the hair was a wispy, fuzzy-looking color around the top of the head. Around the bottom towards the feet and the legs, it looked like to me it was matted, kind of like where he'd been walking around through wet areas, and the hair just matted around closer up to the knees, maybe possibly even a little bit above the knees. And I noticed on the back of the arms there was a little bit of matted hair too, but I still couldn't get over how fuzzy the hair in certain areas, like around around its back and the top of its head, how fuzzy it was, and it just looked like flowy.
You think maybe this could have possibly been, if it was a Bigfoot, do you think it could have possibly been a juvenile, a younger Bigfoot?
Yeah, with that being said, I've got a theory about a lot of, I mentioned this a couple times in my podcasts and things. I believe a lot of the reports that people see and witness Bigfoot, I'm going to say at least 90% of those, I believe now, in my opinion, are juvenile related. And that being one reason is older Bigfoot, to me, common sense would tell me they would have more experience to stay away from humans. They would be extremely reclusive. Your juveniles are more curious. They're younger. They haven't had that experience by being older. I guess you get a cliche of being wiser, as you would call it. So, I definitely believe it was a juvenile that I saw that day.
So they're, in your opinion, the young Bigfoot are kind of like us young humans, young and stupid sometimes.
Exactly, and you know, it's real easy to be caught off guard.
Sure.
But I seriously do believe, in my own opinion, that at least 95% of witnesses what you're actually seeing, instead of being a grown male or a female, you're actually seeing a juvenile.
Well, I know here.
Haven't experienced yet.
Well, I know here in our area, most of the reports that I get from this area are roughly, the height wise is roughly 6 to 7 foot tall, which could actually go along with your idea that most of them are juveniles, because you're talking about a between 6 and 7 foot tall creature. You're talking, you may be talking about something that's, so let's say under 20 years old, which would still be considered very young, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Well, now, Jimmy, did you ever go back and look for tracks or anything like that?
I'm waiting on the weather to warm up, so hopefully one day this week, when it's not going to rain or anything, I'm going to go look for some things, me and a buddy of mine. But I got to thinking also, with if there was any tracks up there that day, with all the rain that we've had here recently with the flooding and stuff, there's a big possibility if anything was there, it's completely washed away or gone by now. But I do have plans to go back into the area and look and see if I can, look for some signs. Hopefully I might be able to find a track, at least one good track that I can cast.
Well, what do you think maybe it was doing when it was crouched down there?
Well, the thing about it was, there was a family member had went back up there and told me that that was there on the other side of the hill, because I told him there was a flat spot where it was standing at. He said there was two rocks. He said there was a flat one and there was one. He said about hand size. He said, but the weird thing about it was too, there was nut holes, acorns, and I think he said black walnuts was there too.
So there's a possibility it could have been sitting there busting nuts.
Exactly. That might have been the noise that I was hearing
Very
as
possible.
I come up on the ridge, was him or it down there busting those nuts up and eating them. And I just startled it,
Well, nuts are here in this part of Kentucky, we have all kinds of different nuts, and nuts are packed with protein, so I could understand eating. I know bears and all that kind of stuff eat them as well, but a bear will not take a rock and crack them open.
Oh no, no doubt. And I've heard of reports, and I've actually taken one report of someone that seen one, and it was done basically the same thing, but this one had a little bit larger rock that it could pick up with two hands, and it had bust multiple nuts up at one time and was eating those. So it makes sense.
It does.
The noise, the rocks being there, the nut holes, me coming up on it and startling the creature, and it taking off. I'm leaning more towards it being a Sasquatch that I did see, but there's still that doubt because I didn't get to see any facial features.
Right. Yeah, you want to see it even better. I know that feeling. I've even though I've seen one, have a picture of one, possible pictures of more than one, but I really want to get that really close in sighting. But I know they're real, of course. But I still like to get that close in sighting, or at least I think I would. I've been real close to them a few times, and years ago when I first had a real close encounter, it was pretty scary. But now, as I've done it more and more and got used to them and some of the things that they do, it's not as scary now to be close to one. But you do get on high alert, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, it shook me up a little bit, because after everything was over with, reality kind of settled in. So I was like, what did I see? Was that actually a Bigfoot? And I remember trying to, just calm myself down and talk myself out of it. And I didn't want to exactly run off and just start telling, people all at one time. I wanted to sit down and think and actually go through what I remember, and that way I could, tell my sighting and not sound crazy, which, I guess that's one of the classic things when you see something like that and you're the only person that sees it and you try to relate it to someone. If they haven't seen what you saw, they can't relate to it that well.
That's correct.
So they just take you as, what you're telling them, the story that you're telling them, without actually being there. And I understand now from witnesses telling me about their encounters how frustrating it is, because folks will tell you saw a bear or something like that. So that's one of the reasons why I didn't say much about it right off the bat. I wanted to give it a little time so that I could get my thoughts, my memory of what I saw down, and then I decided just to go ahead and just, share with everybody else, because I know for a fact there's people out there that would believe me because they have witnessed and seen these creatures just like, I have. So.
Okay, a couple of things, Jim. If you've not already, I would recommend that you write this down somewhere, your encounter, everything you know about it. And if you can, actually, I would try to sketch out a little bit of what you thought the creature looked like from the back. Probably I would sketch it out as it was sitting and as you seen it standing up. And also, I would like for you to maybe to give us an idea about how far back in the woods you were. How far from the main road were you?
Oh, from the main road, I'm going to say at least 300, 350, almost 400 yards. So I was a pretty good distance away from the main road.
How close to the nearest house would you say? Just guessing.
Now, from the nearest house, it was very, very close, within 100 yards.
So it's fairly close to a residence. Well, that's not unheard of. The big one that I seen, which I think it was a male. It was very close to a house, and this was in the wintertime, and I think it was there looking for food, because this particular neighbor of mine, they actually put out food in the wintertime for dogs and whatever. At the time they did. I don't know if they still do. And I think it was actually coming for food. So if there was a walnut tree close by, maybe that's what it was doing, coming to getting the walnuts and things.
There are quite a bit of acorn trees and walnut trees up here on this mountain. They're covered with black walnuts. Would be like you said, a great source of protein for them. And they're abundant. It's something that they can find real quick.
And all year round. I mean, well, once they bear, they're there for a long time. Maybe even the old ones would still be good from the previous year. I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on how hungry they are. But well, Jim, that is a real interesting story, and I hope that you get a chance to go back in that area and look some more. If you know the people who live in that area, who lives in that house, if I was you, I would maybe ask them if they've had anything strange go on.
Well, the people that live, that's one of the things about it. The people that live on the property and stuff are family. So I asked them recently, have they experienced anything? They have a lot of bear and deer, turkey, coyotes even come in their yard. But other than them seeing those type of animals, they never reported to me or told me anything about seeing anything that would be considered a Bigfoot. So.
Well, even family members are reluctant to tell about that type of thing. I've even had some family members at one time thought I was kind of going crazy or losing my mind because, I knew Bigfoot was out there, and I talked about it because anybody who knows me know I'm not a person who fabricates stories or lies. I mean, I don't even use any curse words. So salvation is important to me, and I've been praying a long time, so I don't want to mess it up just by fabricating some kind of crazy Bigfoot story just for somebody to, give me a like on Facebook.
That's right. And that was one of the things that I was worried about too, about coming out and telling people what I saw, is everybody was just, going to just call me a liar. And then after I thought about it for a while, do I really care if anyone believes me or not? No, I really don't. I know what I saw that day. there's other folks out there that believe me because they've had the same experiences. So, it's all right with me if people, doubt me or call me a liar or whatever. I didn't see that. You're going to have folks in the communities that troll people just for that, just so they can make fun of somebody or call somebody a liar. I've seen it with my own eyes before plenty of times.
Me too.
So, it's something that it doesn't bother. It's not going to bother me. I've even had a couple people already send me a message and tell me, oh, you seen just a brown bear or something like that, and you try to argue with them and tell them, hey, here in Kentucky where we live in Southeast, we don't have brown bear. We only have black bears. No brown bears at all. But, it is what it is, and I just let it go with that because it's really not worth my time to argue with people over it anymore because people just look for that.
It's a waste of energy to try to convince somebody who's already got their mind made up.
Exactly.
And you was talking about the color of this one was kind of a cinnamon. I can remember several years ago I got a report of a man who was ginsening, and he kept hearing some talking, and at the time he told me he thought it would sound like, to me it sounded like Russian is what he said. He said it sounded like Russian to me. Well, anyways, he finds a 4-fork of ginseng, and he says, praise the Lord, and he looks up, and there stands the 2 Bigfoot. And one of them, best I can remember, was a cinnamon color, and one of them was black. I think it was a mother and a younger one. He said he actually seen the breast on them. I can't remember which one was. I think the adult was the black one, and the younger one was the cinnamon color. And best I can remember, I think he even threw a few rocks at him and then went on off. Now this is a area that if you go out across the mountain, you're over close to where you are. So maybe there's some of them in that area that are cinnamon color. I know predominantly in this area our Bigfoots are mostly black, but we do get an occasional cinnamon and an occasional white one. So maybe that's up in that area from your side to my side. There are some cinnamon ones on that side of the mountain.
I believe it's a big possibility because of there was a friend of mine, Marcella Chadwick. She had a experience up on Pine Mountain here, and on this side of the mountain is connected to, it's connected to the whole chain of Pine Mountain. So she described basically the same description that I told her she had reported to me last year. So I don't know if it's possibility that, it could be the same creature or some in the same clan. It's hard to tell really.
Yeah,
but the same thing. She said it stood up, and she really didn't get to see its face or nothing, so she couldn't tell if it was someone in a suit or anything. And hey, you just take a guess yourself. I know that for a fact now. So.
Well, another thing people may not realize about our area, we have a lot of deep mountains and a lot of large mountains, and almost all of them are connected by either Old Logan Road, Old Strip Mining Road, or something like that. I mean, you can basically go into the mountains here and come out miles and miles and miles away in another town, another area, because all the roads are kind of interconnected.
Exactly. And we have a lot of old logging roads and stuff like that too. Folks that get out and ride their four-wheelers and things like that, and they connect trails. You can get on one trail and, like you said, bring you out in another community.
Right. Well, Jim, I thank you for that, for telling us about your sighting. And also, for people who don't know, Jimmy also puts on the CryptoCon. This would be the 3rd year of it. But Jimmy has an important update about this year's CryptoCon. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about it, Jim.
Well, our CryptoCon was going to take place September the 5th of this year, but where, all the coronavirus stuff is going on and things like that, it would be very hard for me to get sponsorships. So we have decided to actually hold off on the CryptoCon this year. Maybe we could do later on in the year if something happens with this and the virus cools off and stuff and dies out some, maybe we could do a lecture series or something like that later on in the year. But as the con itself, I'm sad to report that we've had to cancel it this year. So
a lot of things are having to cancel because of this virus, and like you say, it's hard. They tell you not to be in crowds over 10 people or whatever, but it'll be hard to get, like you say, sponsorships. I was at Jimmy's CryptoCon. Was it last year, Jim?
yeah, last year.
And even though we had a pretty good turnout, I mean, I had a lot of people come by and talk to me, and I done real well, and I enjoyed myself up there last year. So I was kind of looking forward to at least having a table up there this year. So, but I understand the reason for cancellation, and maybe, like you say, if we can get one in the fall or maybe early spring next year.
We're actually going to shoot for a con next year, probably right around, I'm going to say, probably in the spring. So, it'll give us plenty enough time to get things situated with that. We have plenty of time to do it this year. It's just this virus, like you said, the apocalypse is it. And
Yeah.
everybody's, running and staying home and things like that. But
Well, as of 5 o'clock this afternoon, I think everything's got to basically be locked down at where people congregate. I know our local church that we go to, they've canceled services all the way up to April the 5th or something. So we're not going to have no service. I know a lot of the businesses up in Harlan are told to close at 5 and not allow in, like dine-in and stuff like that. They still do carry-out, but not no dine-in customers. So it makes it hard to have an event or schedule something if you can't have people.
oh, that's right. The folks coming into these cons and watching the speakers and supporting them by buying books, buying films, and stuff like that. Just like you're a filmmaker, you've got quite a bit of films out, and that's what helps support making those films, because it takes money to buy camera equipment,
Sure.
to buy microphone equipment, and even gas to go to these places and record. And that's how you folks are supported, is by people coming through, buying those things, donations, and we put the con on, and that's what we, leaned on, is for donations and sponsorships. But with this virus and stuff, it's just, they're, like you said, they're making putting everyone on lockdown and things like that, and it would just make it hard. So, it's just the best thing to do this year is just to cancel it and make some plans and make it even bigger and better next year. So.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. The sad part is I think a lot of small businesses are really going to be hurt by having to close, and I hope they can hang on and recover when when it all blows over.
Exactly. I'm hoping, that's one thing that came through, my mind today was, how are these smaller businesses going to support themselves through all this? So
Yeah, it's going to be difficult.
I don't know, we'll just have to wait and see what our president's going to do. You never know. There's talk about him sending folks checks. So, it could just be hearsay, but, we'll never know till it happens, I guess.
Yeah. Hopefully everything, when it goes warming up, everything get back to more normal. Maybe the heat of summer will kill out the virus and everything will be back normal. That's what we can hope.
Oh, yeah.
But Jimmy, I really thank you for being on the show today, and I thank you for telling about your possible Bigfoot sighting. I know you're not satisfied with just seeing the back of it, and I thank you for updating us on the CryptoCon this year, and we hope that maybe you can get it going next year or later this year and have a big turnout.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I like coming on and talking. Anytime it comes to anything that you want me to do, I always said because me and you've always got along real good, and I think you're a pretty good fella.
Well, I think you're a pretty good fella too, Jim, and maybe we can have you back on the show again. Maybe you can get up there and find some tracks or something. We get back on and talk about that.
I'm hoping. We'll see how everything goes.
All right, brother. Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Hey, Thomas here again for What's in the Box. If you have a show idea or you'd just like to leave us a comment, please send us a voice message through the button at the top. Also, we hope you will consider supporting the podcast financially. If not, please just share with your friends. Thanks.